And we're live. This is Susanna Greenberg with Book Buzz, and my guest today is author Kunal Mukherjee, author of My Magical Palace. It's a novel set in India and San Francisco. It's originally published by HarperCollins India, and it's now available in the US as ebook and paperback. Welcome, Kunal. How are you today?
I'm doing well, thank you. Thanks for that lovely introduction, Susanna.
Very good. It's lovely to have you. My Magical Palace is a lyrical tale of a boy's coming of age. It's been widely reviewed internationally in the US and in India. We have a review here from harmonyindia.org, which describes the book as a sensitive read that gathers steam as you turn the pages. This book goes beyond being gay literature. It's a study of eternal dilemmas that defy boundaries. And that's from harmonyindia.org. And about our guest, Kunal. Kunal Mukherjee is a San Francisco-based poet and writer. He's originally from West Bengal. He was raised in Hyderabad, India, and My Magical Palace is his first novel, and has been widely praised internationally and in India. Thank you for being here today, Kunal.
Absolutely. My pleasure.
Let's talk about your book, and in a few minutes more, I would love to have you read us a little sample passage from the book as well.
Okay.
So, thanks, Kunal. So, to begin with, tell us what made you want to tell the story of My Magical Palace?
Well, the story sort of evolved very organically, to be honest. I started out writing an essay as part of it, an exercise with my writing mentor, who said to write an essay about a place I could never go back to. And it was essentially an essay about loss. And then she urged me to make that into a novel. And at some point in time, I said, okay. And then the story really evolved from there. But at the heart of the story is the common human experience of loss that all of us go through. But around it is around different threads. And some of these threads are how we all, every human being, has to put on a show of some kind, pretend to be something else than he or she is when they're growing up, in order for their parents to love them, for the teachers to love them, for their peers not to make fun of them, and how those lies sometimes continue all through one's life, and the impact of doing that, and what one can do to live authentically. It's about that.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Is this story autobiographical in any way?
Not really. I mean, there's a sense of place and time. Definitely, there's no question about that. That is real. There is a city called Hyderabad in southern India. It was ruled by the Nizams for many years. In fact, the Nizam was, in 1942, Time magazine had him on the cover saying he was the richest man in the world. So it's a city with a great amount of culture and a confluence of Hindu and Muslim, customs and neighborhoods and festivals and all of that. And so this book actually talks about the political backdrop that happens when all these communities exist together at a certain period in time, as well as refers to the overriding influence of Bollywood and Indian culture, and how all of us are actually influenced very much like it, whether we're being overly dramatic or overly funny, whatever it is, we take a lot of our cues from films, just like TV does it over here. So that is all is true. And there was a palace, and that is the palace that I wrote about. And then around that are different characters. And to be perfectly honest, nobody can write about something that they don't know either personally or through someone else. So of course, yes, parts of it are real, but they didn't happen to me. I just made everything up. But time and place are real.
I see. Okay, and tell us about the main character that you've created, Rahul.
Yes.
What do you like best about your protagonist, Rahul? Tell us about him.
I mean, to me, Rahul really represents every human being on the planet, because, like others, he too has a secret. Everybody has a secret. Either they don't want to study engineering like in India and become a doctor or a lawyer. All they want to do is, go paint pictures or dig up flower beds. But of course, that would be not tolerated. Or they may be people who like somebody of the same gender. Of course, that's a no-no. Somebody may not even want to get married for any reason, but they're forced into marriage at a certain age, right? Or they're too dark, they're too fat, they're too tall, they're too thin, anything. a wrong caste, wrong religion, and I mean, taking it internationally, I mean, everybody is at some point an outsider to the society they live in. So Rahul really represents that human being that is in all of us, and every person goes through that experience of wanting to be loved. And the irony is that in order to get love, we turn ourselves into somebody else, and that person gets loved. So we never get the love ourselves, and that's the irony of it. And there's a huge impact on the family and the society when people are living lies. Huge, huge impact. I mean, it just ripples through, to families, and so many things happen as a result of it. So it's really about that. So Rahul is a human being who has his own secret, and he tries to hide it. And it takes him a life, 4 decades of his life to figure out what he's been doing all along, and have the courage to be himself and realize how much other people did when he was young in their own way, and how they grew and transformed, through action. And he gets to transform too.
I see. Fascinating character. Tell us about the magical palace in the title, My Magical Palace. Does it exist somewhere in the world or metaphorically? Tell us a little bit more. You mentioned that there is a
It
palace.
There is a path there. Well, you have to read the book, but I will say there is a place
Share with
actually
the
that is
readers.
still.
I have read it, but we need to share with the readers who have
Okay,
yet
yeah.
to read
So
it.
there is a place that is still named after the palace grounds. The palace was there for several decades, over as well over a century, and so that is the physical palace. And the boy grows up in this palace, and is absolutely captivated by nature and birds and animals and all the beautiful things and the seasons and the monsoons, everything that captures a child's fantasy when one is not playing video games. Like today, if we're outside, there's so much in the world that actually gives us food for thought, for imagination, and we learn how to love things after when we see them, we touch them, we smell them. So that was his world, and it was idyllic. It was like paradise. And then at some point, that got shattered, and that is exactly like the metaphor, if any, and this is actually a very unconscious metaphor, to be perfectly honest. After writing it, I realized that was in my head all along in the back, that we all grow up thinking our parents are perfect, thinking our world is perfect, thinking our friends are perfect, our parents' friends are perfect. Everyone is perfect, world is beautiful, everything is great. And then comes the first no, when something stops and something is wrong suddenly. And then we find out that in order to be loved and get the things we want, we have to behave a certain way. We have to do well in school. We have to talk a certain way. We have to project a certain image. I mean, even pets know that. Even the pet dog used to know exactly what to do to get a reaction from me, and learned it very, very quickly. So I mean, this it's part of our animal nature to want to be loved, and to be loved, and to do whatever it takes to get it. So, but that world that we had as a child, that is idyllic and perfect, is a world where we don't need to do that. Everything is already there, and we are perfect as we are. And as that world begins to shatter, we starting as human beings to try to adjust to that shattered world. And we realize that our parents are human too, and that their friends are human too, and that everyone is driven by fear. Fear of not being rich enough, fear of not being successful enough, fear of what the neighbors will say. Everybody is driven by fear. Every human being is driven by fear, and it's societally induced. So it's really a metaphor for that, and we all go through that. By the time someone is an adolescent, I mean, there's a level of cynicism that comes in. I can do this, I can't do that. Oh, people are like this, people are like that. These people are horrible, those are nice. I hate this and I love that. All these things, don't go there, it's dangerous. Don't do that because you'll get hurt. All that stuff is the result of that shattered world. So yes,
Hmm.
it is a metaphor, but it also has a physical reality and is actually a character in the book. And you'll find out if you read it. Not you, but anybody who reads it. Yeah.
I understand. And
Yes.
returning to the theme of fear, let's talk for a moment about the LGBT community in India. What are that's one of the themes of this book. And talk to us about, what are the challenges currently faced by the LGBT community in India today?
Okay, so I'm going to give like a 30-second or 45-second recap of the background, and then
Okay.
tell you what's happening today. So, when the British ruled India, there were about 80 colonies worldwide, and one of the things they did was the church was very strict and anti homosexuality in any form. So a lot of the Brits actually ran off to colonies to escape persecution. And then what happened, like in India, we had Lord Macaulay was the viceroy. And so the church and the conservatives managed to persuade Lord Macaulay and all the other people who ruled the territories to impose this law. And in this law is a rather bizarre law because two consenting people cannot do an act or cannot do anything that can be where there's a victim, because they're both saying we are cool with it. So they made nature a crime. So Article 377, Section 377 is nothing but a crime against nature, because there has to be a victim for a crime, and it is highly punishable. It is you can be arrested just on the complaint or suspicion or a little video, any proof that anybody has tried to have same-sex relations, and then there follows medical exams and hospitals, and then you're thrown into jail, pretty much.
Oh
And
gosh.
this is an archaic, ridiculous institution. And while Great Britain has also not only legalized marriage but also lowered the age of consent, you know, we in India and some of the other South Asian colonies are busy touting the drum of our culture. And going back, there's eminent historians like Dr. Salim Kidwai who've written books, so many of them, to clearly show that this is not a foreign anything. It's a human thing. It's been around forever and it will continue, and it exists in the animal world. So that is what's going on. But my feeling about it is that when it was 6 years ago, the High Court considered it and overturned it. And now it got reinstated by the Supreme Court twice. And it's being thrown to the Parliament. This is just a way to keep it in place. But if you imagine 17% of the world's gay population living in constant fear and concern, day after day. Think about that little boy or the teenager who wanted to come out, and his parents say, "Oh, great, you're gay, and you're a criminal too now. So you are telling me that you want to be a criminal?" That's what it's like.
It's too terrible.
I get letters from people, I cry when I read them because I can't even imagine how horrible it is. But it was always there. And actually, it is referred to in the book too, the terror of what would happen if people find out. And that feeds right
Mm.
into the very, very basis of Indian society. The foundation is what will people say? And that's in every society in the world.
Yes. Hmm. Well, I hope that your book will reach some of those people and maybe bring them some comfort and inspiration and thought. I
Yeah.
certainly hope so. Um,
It's a matter of
well,
time. It is.
well,
It
here
cannot, the
too,
clock will never be turned back.
around the world, this is something, but
Yes.
you have a special experience and view on it that I'm very happy you're sharing with people.
Yes.
And speaking of sharing your work, let's return to the literary side and give us a little taste of your book and favor us with a short reading.
Let
You are
me
such
just.
a wonderful writer. If you
Ah,
would
thank
treat
you.
us to reading a little bit of the book, just, for a few minutes, a passage you have selected, and
Sure.
maybe if you could, introduce the passage, put us
Yes.
in the context of, what you're going to read about, and
Yes.
read us a little bit of your story.
Yeah. And for those of you who just want to have a close look at the title, I actually do have the
Oh, let's see the
cover.
book. Yes, hold it
Yeah,
up.
this is the book. So if we go back,
Oh, it's so beautiful.
this is what it says. It's got a very interesting quote at the bottom, and those of you who can go to Amazon can take a look at it. But this is the title. So you've
If
got the
I
golden
am
gate
the
in the
wait,
back.
hold it up and I'll read it.
Sorry?
I can't read it.
Oh
Read
yeah,
it.
it's upside down, right? I mean, it's a mirror image. But anyway, it has the golden gate in the back, and it has a palace in the front with mangoes. So we get a
Oh,
sense of.
I have it written down. It says on the front, if I am the queen of gay storytelling in India, Kunal Mukherjee must be the crown prince. This is a simple story simply told. It's like watching a 1970s Hindi movie, only it is all too true and all gay. I relate to, and that's from Hoshin to author That's a wonderful quote. And And now, would you please read
Yes.
to us?
Yes, I'm really grateful to Hoshang Merchant for this because he, before anybody even could dare to use that word, he wrote books and he runs also a department that's focused on studies related to this topic. And he's a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful person. So, all right, let me give a quick background. So, the protagonist is about 14 years old or so in class, and he has a big crush on a famous actor at the time, and he has written love letters. And this is the moment that I was talking about, where the world starts crashing. So until now, he was a happy kid, doing well in school. I mean, didn't like doing certain things, like doing other things, but he was fine. And then this is what happened. So in class, he actually had a crush on the cricket team captain, and this is what happened one afternoon. Then this was the unraveling of his life. Um, excuse me, have a sip of water. So first of all, just before this scene, his teacher actually asked him a question, and he's a daydreamer, this kid, and he gives a very inappropriate answer because he was fantasizing about some Hindi movie and with his favorite hero in it, and so he got punished. He got caned in front of his class.
Right.
So this is where it picks up.
Okay.
I felt another surge of embarrassment at having been humiliated in front of my hero. Amit was 15 and the captain of the cricket team. He had won countless matches for the school and never made fun of me like the other boys I did. I wanted him to pick me to be his friend, but naturally I never dared approach him. Instead, I watched him wherever I could, at cricket matches, at elocution competitions, at football games. I would hang around, hoping to say, "Hi, Amit," get his attention for a brief moment before he turned around to laugh at what his friend said. Suddenly, there was a knock at the door. The headmistress, Mrs. Joshi, swept into the room looking grim. The entire class went silent at once. "Follow me to my office, please, Amit." Mrs. Joshi's voice was deathly cold. Taken aback and curious, we wondered what she could possibly want. Her calling the class here out like this did not make any sense. Amit looked surprised for a moment, but then he shrugged. As he stood up, his chair scraped the stone slabs of the floor, sounding unnaturally loud in the silent classroom. His khaki pants were bunched up and wrinkled at his knees in the heat, and his white shirt was crumpled, the tails escaping from the back. He placed his notebook and pen on the desk and followed Mrs. Joshi out. So did Mr. Swaminathan, that's the teacher. As soon as the door closed behind them, all the boys started talking. All around the room, everybody was speculating about why Amit, the class idol, had suddenly been called to the principal's office. Was he in trouble? Suddenly, Suresh Khosla got up, looking very pleased with himself. I was not surprised. He always rejoiced in the misfortunes of others. He cleared his throat. "Silence, boys," he said, grandly clapping his hands to get our attention. "I know what happened." With a sly grin on his face, he said, "Amit wrote a love letter to Rohit. Rohit showed it to me after football practice, and I told Mrs. Joshi." As soon as Suresh said this, there was a huge commotion. "Are yaar, Amit is a bloody homo," several of the boys shouted indignantly. I did not understand what it meant or why everyone was getting so upset. The class got quiet again when our teacher walked in. "What is a homo?" I whispered to Ranjan, my best friend. He looked at me with scorn, delighted by my ignorance. Lips curling, he spoke in a patronizing voice. "Amit wrote a love letter to another boy. Of course he's a homo. It's not normal." Grimacing, he pretended to vomit. "Oh," was all I could say, embarrassed by my ignorance, feeling the blood rush to my face. "Oh, a homo," I bit my lip. That evening, when I went home, my mind was in turmoil. This was the first time that I had seen such disgust directed at anyone for doing what I had done, write a love letter. But in the films, the hero and heroine always wrote love letters to each other. No one ever said that was dirty. This must have something to do with a boy writing a love letter to another boy. It was obviously something disgusting enough to make Ranjan pretend to vomit. I thought of Mrs. Joshi's chilling tone as she spoke to Amit. How could the hero of the class have fallen from grace so easily? I wanted to ask Rani, my sister, but dared not. I would have to find out on my own. The next day, Mrs. Joshi announced at assembly time that Amit had left the school. Her prim mouth was pursed in a tight grimace. Amit Puri is not coming back to school. He, uh, he, uh, Mrs. Joshi stammered. Then she paused and spoke again, choosing her words carefully. He behaved in a manner not befitting the high standards of the school. Her glittering eyes surveyed each of the boys, the horn rimmed glasses perched menacingly at the end of her nose, looking for anyone unfortunate enough to be standing out of line or whose hair touched the edge of his collar. I shrank back as she gave me a cursory glance. My fascination with Rajesh Khanna would most certainly be my downfall. Like Amit, I would be in trouble too if anybody found out. The boys would call me bloody homo. It was hard enough being younger than the other boys. If I were a homo too, life would be unbearable. And this is pretty much, where I'm going to stop because after
Okay.
this, you'll find out what happened to Amit, and that is a story that is actually not a story. It's happening all over the world in many places. It's even on the ballot several times in the state of California, and in India, it's just also, regardless of what any society of physicians says or psychiatrists say, it is still treated in a certain way, and the consequences are devastating for everyone. And you will find out what that is.
Yeah. Well, that's you know, a poignantly rendered and chilling scene. You're quite a writer, and the whole book is really wonderful. And thank you for reading that.
Absolutely.
And it's kind of sad, but the
Mhm.
book is in the end more inspirational than sad, I think.
Yes, yes, yes.
And again, we've just been hearing a reading from My Magical Palace, a novel by Kunal Mukherjee, which is available on Amazon.com, originally published by HarperCollins India. And Kunal, if you could, is there anything else you'd like to say to your
Sure.
readers or listeners at large?
Yeah,
A
I would.
message for them?
A very short message. So first of all, about the book, you can go to kunalmukherjee.com, and from there you can just click and go straight to Amazon, or you can go to Amazon, and it's available on Kindle too, and on in paperback. And I'm going to do a promotion very very soon in the next like week or so.
Very good.
So you'll probably see something in your inboxes. And please avail of the opportunity to just take a look and see, how a certain era and time that is no longer in existence and will probably never ever come back is portrayed, in this book. My only message is for all of us to be true to ourselves, to treat others like we would like to be treated ourselves, and to realize that we are all the same. There's only one thing that every human being wants: to love and to be loved. The rest is just outer differences. And but using that as a justification for marginalizing anyone is just cruel and inhuman, and it's hard to justify when we are all the same. That's it.
That's beautiful. So I think you'll say shalom and
Shalom.
namaste. And
Namaste.
please read and buy
And
the book
adab.
My Magical Palace, a novel by Kunal Mukherjee. Easily findable on his website, kunalmukherjee.com, the Facebook page, My Magical Palace, and on Amazon.com. Thank you, anyone out there who listens or watches to this broadcast. And thank you most of all to our author, the talented and wonderful Kunal Mukherjee. And we will sign off. And let's just say a goodbye from Kunal. Can you
Yes,
say?
goodbye, everyone. And I want to thank you, Susanna, for giving me this platform to speak. Thank you so much for the opportunity to be able to share something. And you are just wonderful. Thank you. And thank you to everybody who's been listening.
Okay. Thank
You've
you, everyone.
inspired me to think of myself as somebody who needs to write more books. So you are
You
wonderful.
do, you do. The world is waiting for your next book after they read this one.
Oh, yeah, the screenplay for this book's already written, by the way,
Read
for
this one
Hollywood.
first, and more to come. I'm gonna make them write those books.
All right, bye
Okay,
everyone.
farewell, everyone. Thank you.
Thanks. Bye bye.